I'm Diane Hall with AARP Missouri, and I'd like to welcome you to our final Movement for Life class for 2022. I am sad that we're ending because I love this class, but stick around after class and we'll talk about what is next. This 8-week class has been part of AARP Missouri's Moving It Fitness Series and is led by Tyler Ferguson. Tyler Ferguson, my apologies. Movement for Life is geared toward increasing mobility to help build ability to participate in other fitness activities as well as everyday tasks. So speaking of fitness activities, you can find many of our previous fitness classes on Missouri's YouTube channel at youtube.com/C, like the letter, /AARPMO. Now, Movement for Life is a class that is suitable for many levels of fitness. However, you know your own limitations. Please do not try to go beyond what you know is right for you. If you have any concerns, check with your doctor before participating in this or any other fitness offering. AARP Missouri also offers other live fitness classes. Currently, we've got Zumba Light class going on, and we have past programs like Forever Fit and Yoga with Tyler that you can participate in from the recordings. You can find the links to current, past, and upcoming programs at aarp.org/movingit. All of our programming is people age 50 plus in mind, but it's good for anyone of any age, anywhere. AARP hopes that our fitness classes like Movement for Life will be great options for anyone who may not be able to or who may be a little bit hesitant to attend a traditional fitness class, like a caregiver. For those who maybe have health reasons or those who might like just the convenience of working out at home. In addition to our online fitness classes, AARP has resources for caregivers, up-to-date COVID-19 information, and technology information on our website at aarp.org/nearyou. Now, let's get started with Movement for Life. Our instructor is Tyler Ferguson. Tyler, let's move.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our 8th and final class. Before we get started, I want to wish a happy birthday to my special friend Lois today. Happy birthday. We have at least one birthday in the class. Okay, let's get started. Come to standing if that's comfortable for you. And if you're warm enough to take your socks off, free up your toes and feet and practice with me barefoot if that makes sense for you. Bring your feet about hips distance apart and see that your toes are facing towards the front of the room. You might even bring the toes in or the heels out slightly so that the outside edges of the feet are parallel with the walls on either side of you. Bend your knees a little bit, soften them a little bit, and then stand up tall by pushing the heels down in the ground and lengthening in the spine. But you're standing up tall without locking your knees back. You can still have that just slight micro bend in the knees. From here, feel the big toe mounds pressing into the ground. Feel the piggy toe mounds pressing into the ground of each foot, and then the heel of each foot. And the space in between the big toe, piggy toe mound, and the heel is the arch of your foot. So using your shoulders and your trunk, see if you can arrive in alignment. So your hips and shoulders are above the arch of your feet and the ears are right over your shoulders. Lift and separate the toes, spread them as wide as you can, and then try to place them back down on the floor, separated and wide. Go ahead and look down and see if you created any space between your toes. And if you didn't, that's okay, but continue working toward that goal. Lift and lengthen through the spine once again and find some activation in the legs, perhaps drawing the feet toward one another as if you're squeezing a beach ball between the legs, but notice the feet don't move. You can do that, or you can push the feet away or find that corkscrew motion. Anything to get more leg muscle online, more tissue online as you stand tall. Take the eyes away from the screen. Just look down at the floor in front of you and breathe in through the nose and fill up. Expanding your lungs. This is called conscious breathing. You're thinking about how you take air in and you're making accommodations to allow more air to move in. And the same with your exhale. Consciously exhaling a little bit more air than you normally would if you were thinking about or not thinking about your breathing. Again, inhaling in. Now, just because your breathing is conscious doesn't mean it's forced. So recognize the difference between accommodating and making room and feeling breath expand into the ribcage area, expand your lungs, but forcing it. And the same with your exhale. Nice, slow exhale on the way out. Revisit your feet and your legs as we breathe and arrive to this place where we're ready to begin our work. Using the breath, inhale your arms up to the sides of your body. Blade your fingers together so the palms are down. And then exhale, arms down. So move with the breath here. Inhale, arms up. Pause when the hands are parallel or level with the shoulders. And exhale your arms down. Move with your breath, not mine. We might look different. If your arms are comfortable reaching overhead, inhale. I got a little feedback, so maybe somebody's mic on, especially if you just joined. So if your arms are comfortable reaching overhead, do that. And then exhale, arms down to sides. Now, for some, your arms don't go completely overhead. So maybe you pause in more of a Y shape. Maybe you pause with your arms just a little bit more in front. So find the shape that's good for you, reaching overhead and exhaling down. 2 more times. Inhale up, pause with your arms reaching overhead. Rotate. Do not come to your knees right now. Do not. Rotate your pinkies toward the middle so the backs of your hands are forward, and then rotate the palms forward. So arms overhead, finding these rotations. If your arms are out to the side, rotate palms up and rotate palms down. When the palms are up, notice the broadening across the chest. You can feel. Last time. And exhale, arms down to the sides. Shake out your wrists and just let your shoulder tissue recover from that work. We're going to inhale up again. On your exhale, swish your arms back behind you and bring your eye gaze down. Inhale, arms up, look up. Exhale, swish arms down, squat a little bit. Inhale up, make it more organic. Exhale, swish. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, bend knees. Pull your hips back behind your heels. Inhale up. And exhale, swish it down. Bring yourself back to standing. Find your feet drilled into the ground. Active legs, but not locked out knees. Drive knuckles down to the ground. Bring your right ear down to your right shoulder. Take your left jaw, pull it up to the ceiling. Pause here. We're going to do figure 8. From this position, right ear to right shoulder, rotate and look up at the ceiling so that the back of your head is now closer to your shoulder. From here, travel your chin over to the opposite shoulder. Now sweep your left ear down so you're looking at the screen. Pause here. Recognize where we are. Take your right jaw, pull up and away. Now rotate your eye gaze back up to the ceiling. And then travel your chin over to the right shoulder. Sweep the right ear down so you're looking at the screen. And we're back to the beginning. That's one full figure 8. We'll start here again. Right ear down, left jaw pulls up. Rotate eye gaze up to the ceiling so the back of the head is close to that same shoulder. Travel the chin over. Sweep the left ear down, left shoulder, look at the screen, pause, pull up with the right ear, and then continue sweeping. So the back of the head is at the shoulder, eye gaze is up to the ceiling, and then travel chin over to right shoulder, sweep right ear down. Actively pull on the jaw and left ear as you sweep the eye gaze up. Travel over to the opposite shoulder, sweep the ear down. Get active in the right jaw. Keep sweeping, looking up at the ceiling. Travel the chin over and pause. Bring your eye gaze back to center. So that's figure 8. We're using our lateral flexion there. We're using rotation there. And we're using flexion and extension, all of those movements of the neck. We're putting into one movement, the figure 8 movement. We're going to move into our neck glides now. Bring your hands to your chest. Now, on your neck glides, the body stays relatively still, as still as you can make it. You're just trying to address this movement right here at the neck. And we'll start by taking the chin forward and down. And when the chin goes forward, the down cue makes sure that you don't crunch the back of your neck. So let's just go forward and down, and then chin in, long back of the neck. So finding that range of movement, just gliding forward and back. Now, the reason I'm cueing that the chin goes down is if I take the chin forward and up, see how I can create a little compression or squishy back there? So I want to avoid that. I want to go down and forward and back. So that's important in your glides. Now, pause. We'll do our side to side glides. So sometimes it can be helpful not to look at yourself when you do these and just imagine gliding your ear side to side. Now, the tendency is to do those movements we just learned, the rotational movements or the lateral flexion movements. Now we're trying to glide like our head is a pitcher of water. We don't want to spill it. Let's put those movements together now. Bring the chin back, glide to the left, chin forward and down, glide over to the other side. Back, over, forward, other side. This might feel very staccato to you, but it might be exactly where you are with this movement, or you can glide and connect those points and make this movement more circular. Again, no pain is allowed here. If you feel pain, back off. But what you can pause when you're done with your last revolution. What you might experience are some gas bubbles popping and some cracking and some gravelly things. Let's take our movements the other direction. Chin forward and down, chin back. Which direction we're going? Okay, chin back, other direction. So for you, I'm not even going to call out left and right. Just want you to find your circles in the other direction. If you stay staccato the whole time, that's fine. That's your journey. If finding and smoothing out these circular movements work for you, then go ahead and find those circular movements. And when you finish up, knuckles go back down, stand up nice and tall. All right, bring your fingertips back behind your head, but please do that. The fingertips are they're a landmark for the elbows, because now the elbows are going to move in front or maybe even slightly behind. What we're not doing with the fingertips is pushing the head forward in any way. So the touch on your head with the fingertips is light. So remember, the fingertips are a landmark. Stand strong in our stance, and then bring the elbows toward one another, and then open up the elbows as far as you can, being mindful that the pressure of the fingertips on the head is as light as possible. They're barely feathering or touching the head, and we're just moving our wings. Now, as you move through this movement, notice if your shoulders are up in your ears and you're working too hard. Relax the shoulders. And just think about the elbows moving, but can you feel the shoulder blades? When the elbows are back, the shoulder blades come together. Pretend like somebody's putting a pencil between your shoulder blades and you have to hold it. And then as you bring the shoulders forward, you might drop that pencil back there. And then pause after your last revolution with your elbows as wide as your ears are open and a little bit wider. Now, we're going to flex our spine or our trunk. And I want to make a difference today, or make clear, like I do many days, the difference between flexing your spine or your back and leaving it flat. So from here, you're going to imagine this place where your ribs come together and your navel, they're going to work their way toward one another in this little crunch, and then stand up nice and tall. So belly button moves up and in, the ribs move down toward the hips, and then stand up tall. As you crunch, think about pulling this muscle fiber toward one another, or maybe a better way to say it is initiating the movement, the crunching movement with these abdominal muscles. Keep moving with me at a pace that's beneficial for you, and put your mind into what a sit-up feels like. And notice these are the crunching muscles you might use on a sit-up, but notice how when we're standing, you don't have to jerk or pull your head up with your arms or lead with your chin. Okay, so can you find the activation of these muscles? Just standing, final time, a little crunch, and stand up nice and tall when you're finished with that work. Bring your shoulders up into your ears and back down, just to shrug the shoulders and relieve any tension that you might have built up there from having our fingertips behind our head for so long. We're going to move into spinal lateral flexion. So what we did was a little bit of forward flexion. We didn't do so much extension, but we did some forward flexion. Now we're going to move to the side. We have a lot of options for hand placement. Right here at the chest for shoulder injuries, back behind the head, right where we just were, or reaching and grabbing opposite elbows. So pick whatever expression you want with me. Stand up nice and tall. And we're going to move that direction. So that's my right. We're going to move to the right. So I want you to lift and lengthen through the left side. Pull the rib up out of the pelvic bowl. And then as you move to the right, continue to lift and lengthen. Breathe with me here. Now press the heels down and come right back up. Stand tall. Firm your glutes a little bit so that the fronts of the hips feel pushed forward and fully extended. Lift and lengthen left side. Come over to the right. Snap, crackle, pop, a little bit of movement. No pain though. And then keep moving with me. Third time. Come over. If you have the mobility to hug your biceps towards your ears and bring your fingertips forward, you can try that. A lot of mobility and a lot of weight there. After you come to the center, bring your arms down to the sides. Just let them hang a little bit. And then we'll take that movement to the other side. So find your hand. I'm showing you 3. 1, 2, 3. Find your hand motion that works. And now this right side is going to lift and lengthen. We'll move over to the left. Now, I'm going to do about 3 reps, nice and slow. You might do a few more. You might do a few less, hang out a little bit longer. What's your action in your legs right now? Are they holding you up, or are you working the legs? Are you finding that corkscrew? Are you hugging that beach ball with the inner thighs? Can you give more action or more activation to the legs as you do this movement? And last time. I take my arms long, it feels good to me. You don't have to do it for this movement to work for you. We're just moving our spine laterally. Okay, take your hands together. We do this one every class. I think it's a great movement, particularly if you're keyboarding or at a desk a lot. In fact, it'd be nice to put a little timer if you spend a lot of time at a desk. Do this, stand up and do this every 20 minutes. Bring your hands together and interlace the fingers. Now point your fingers forward, your thumbs are crossed. Round your back ribs, round your back spine, and take your eye gaze to your thumbs. So your thoracic spine, or the spine that's associated with your rib cage, is rounding and flexing a little bit. Allow yourself to get set and take a breath. And then to take the opposite movement, separate the hands, pull the heart forward. You're putting your thoracic spine into extension. Look up a little bit where the ceiling meets the wall. Look at that seam. Good. Notice the openness you're getting across the chest here. Chest expansion, heart lifts. Lead with your heart, lead with love. Inhale, exhale, send the fingers forward, round out the back. So we're stretching all the muscles associated with the shoulder blades. So not only can you feel the shoulder blades moving, but maybe you can feel the rhomboids and the muscles of the back stretch. And then as you expand through the chest, you might feel these pec muscles moving. Stretching. Keep breathing. Exhale, shoot. Fingertips forward, round. Make sure your shoulders are not up in the ears. Try to bring them down and away. And separate the hands. Pull your heart forward. Lead with your heart. And exhale yourself back. Your hands back to the hips. Okay. So we flex the spine already. Now we're going to flatten the back. So take your thumbs and just, you can feel your rib cage maybe, or a hard part of your ribs. Just hang them out there, and then take your fingertips and have them land on that bony part of your hip somewhere. And then notice when you do that flexion move at the spine, see how the thumbs and fingers come close together? When you flex at the spine, you bring the space closer together. What I want you to do is hinge at the hips. So we've done this one before. Pull your glutes back behind your heels, and you're moving with a flat back. So notice when you're hinging at the hips correctly, the space between your thumbs and your fingers doesn't change. That space doesn't change. So that's your little metric or your little tool for discerning between a flexion at the spine and a hinge at the hips. So with our little toolbars in place, pull the hips back behind the heels, tear the ground apart with your feet a little bit as you do this. The globes of your glutes should be back behind your heels. The spine is long. And if you're looking up at the screen and you have this compression here, just remember to bring the chin down towards the chest so the back of the neck is long. You can take your measuring sticks off together and bring your hands to a prayer in front of your chest. Now take your mind down to your tailbone. Tuck, if you had a tail, tuck it down or elongate it down toward your heels, down toward the floor. Feel that stretch, that slow and subtle stretch in the low back. And then move it in the opposite tail, as if you're lifting the back of your tail up to the sky. Release the hands, put them on the thighs, and stand up nice and tall. Open up the front of your hips as you do that. We'll do that 2 more times. You can turn on your measuring sticks if you're still not quite sure about a flat back. Otherwise, bring hands to prayer. First movement is glutes behind heels. That creates a hinge in the hips. Now my knees are kind of micro bent here. If we were going to do a squat, you would bend the knees more. This is pick up something, use your legs, right? We're not using the spine here. We're keeping the spine out of it. We're just picking up something with our legs. I got ahead of myself. Right now, we're just working on a flat back. Hands are at prayer. Eye gaze is down, chin is in. So feel the length in the spine. Find that little activation with the low lumbar spine of lengthening the tail down to the heels and then lifting the tail up behind you. So if you've been with me before, you're just performing a little bit of sassy and cashew here. Maybe bring your awareness to your belly button and draw it in towards your spine as you take your tail down to the heels and back into sassy. Drive your knuckles toward the floor, push through the heels and stand up tall. Fully extend at the hips without arching your back. Turn on your glutes, hug the glute muscles to the femur bones as you stand tall, lift and lengthen through the spine. Inhale here. Exhale, hands together at prayer 1 more time. Find your flat back hinge. Now sit a little, bend the knees and let the arms hang down. Let your hands get super duper heavy, almost as if you have weight in the hands or weights in the hands, and then start to find some circles. You might hinge your back up just a little bit here so that you have enough room for your shoulders to completely let go and your hands to find some circles, but you're not working in your back too much. And then take your circles in the other direction by letting our hands be heavy and having that feeling of weight, just really allowing the tissues to elongate at the shoulders here. And release here. Stand up nice and tall. We're going to do a different kind of arm circle now. I'm going to go to my knees when I show you this, but I want you to stand. Please don't follow me to my knees. So our starting position is standing with, we're going to go one side of the body, thumb forward, and the palm is toward the body. Reach that arm in front of you, and then turn the thumb towards your body. Feel the rotation happening at the shoulder. Once you've, I'm going to go to the floor now. Once you've gone turned and you can go no further, bring your arm up overhead and then try continuing that turn as you reach behind you, ultimately, so that in your in position, it's the back of your hand that is at your thigh and your thumb that's behind you. I'm going to do that one more time. I've turned the thumb forward and the palm to my body as a starting position. Now hold on in the rotation. Go ahead and reach up overhead. When you can go no further, turn the thumb towards your body, opening the palm up to the side, continue reaching back behind you, and then continue that rotation, that twist, so you land with the back of your hand alongside your body. Final time. First, you're just going to reach up till you can go no further. Then rotate the arm, rotate the thumb until you can no longer rotate, reach back behind, continue with that same direction of rotation, and you end with the thumb behind, back of the hand. We'll try that on the other side. So we did a starter just to find and see and feel where the rotation goes. Bring your arm up in front, rotate the thumb toward you internally. That's the direction the arm is going to turn in your movement internally. So we'll start on this other side. Reach the arm up overhead. Do not come to your knees. Now start the rotation. Thumb goes towards your body, palm goes away. Continue reaching behind you, but continue with the movement. Now, some of you at the end of class might say, I've got an injury. This isn't working for me. If this particular exercise isn't working for you, you can make whatever modification feel safe. I don't want you to do this full range of motion in your arms if this isn't where you are today because of an injury. Okay, we're all not going to look alike either. You might come up here and then have to go more level with your arm to get that rotation. So finish up your third rotation on the left side and we'll move on to some hip roots. So shake out your wrist. In fact, doesn't this one feel good? I love this one. Let's just do that. Let's just rotate. And then you're letting your hands feel like heavy weights. And they'll slap against the body. Be sure to breathe. It's a nice little transition before we get to the next exercise. Come to your starting position. This is mountain pose or Tadasana in yoga. Find the activation of the feet. Place the hands on the hips. Now take your left hip, pull it back behind your heel and over to the side. So it's about, you're going to the corner of the room, not directly to the side wall and not directly towards the back. Now think about that long spine, that flat back that we just learned. We're not rounding in the spine. We're pulling the heart forward and the back is flat. And then stand up nice and tall. Push through the heels, open up the front of the hips, lift and lengthen the whole body. Crown of the head reaches up to the sky. Take it to the other direction. It starts with a hip hinge. Pull the right glute back behind the heel and off to the side. Spine is long. Take your chin down to your chest so the cervical spine or the neck is long too. And then stand up nice and tall. Let's do this a few more times. Just move on your own. It's really easy to do this exercise and look at the screen the whole time, which isn't ideal for your neck. So as you hip root down, if you can just take your eye gaze down to the floor in front of you, bring your chin to your chest, maintaining that alignment, it's going to feel better to you. After you hinge back in this little hip root, knees are bent, you finish by standing tall and fully extended in this crease of the hips. Now let's take this into some juicy circles. So we're going to hip root back over to one side, swish our tails across the back of the room, wind up on the other side, and then swish forward so that we're in this full hip extension, lift and lengthen through the spine. It's like a miniature tiny back bend, but the back bend is happening because the spine is lifted. And then sit back, swish, come forward, start to circle that out, smooth it out. Yeah, nothing wrong with doing this first thing in the day, right? Let's get those hips all hydrated and flushed out. Now we'll take it in the other direction. Sit back on the opposite side, swish, come forward with your back bend. So as you move in these juicy hip circles with me, when you stand tall at the front of your hip circle, just keep thinking long, length, 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 long spine. Sometimes when we back bend, we think shorter, right? We're taking this and we're bending it to make it shorter, but you want to pull and elongate it. There's a literary term, Diane, for when I pronounce the word like the meaning of the word. We're going to discuss that at the end. And then we'll finish with the hip circles. Hey guys, I don't have my clock. Hold on. I forgot to set that. Okay, now I know what time it is. All right, let's do a little bit of core work. So if you have a chair nearby, chair nearby, we're gonna go ahead and set ourselves up for the core work. You might use a wall to hold on to for balance. And if you don't want to use a chair, you just want to use a block or a book or just something a little lower to the ground, do that. And if you don't like the idea of the split stance, don't do it. You can still follow along. But for those who do, let's lift a leg, find a place for it to reside, and then set up the structure a little bit. So what often happens is this long standing leg, in order to gain stability, we lock that knee out, we send it back. Can you bend it a little bit, push through the heel, and turn on the glute associated with the standing leg? All right, it's a lot to unpack there, but that's going to help you with your balance. Find the triangle of your left or your standing long leg, draw navel to spine. Remember those little crunches we did earlier standing? Let's try them again. Little crunch and stand tall. Little crunch and stand tall. Maybe looking for about 5 of these. Can you perform this crunch as the navel draws back to the spine? And you're taking these front ribs and you're just pulling them together. You're finding this muscle fiber and you're pulling it all in. Now pause here. Keep the elbows nice and wide. We're going to find rotations. And what I want you to think about is the right rib or whatever leg is lifted. So for me, it's right. The right rib is going to rotate towards the back of the room and the left rib is rotating towards the leg that's forward. And then come back to center. Find your rotation. Now your standing leg might be fatiguing. And if it is, try to take the quad and the hamstring and the glute and hug it, hug it, hug it as hard as you can to the bone. Maybe not as hard as you can, but that's just my way of trying to encourage you to use the musculature in that leg. There's 5. Good. Now can we combine? Can we rotate and hinge? So now I'm bringing my opposite shoulder, right knee is forward. I'm rotating and hinging left knee toward, left shoulder toward the elevated knee. We're just looking for about 5 of those. Continue to breathe, maybe exhale on the work. Finish, completely finish each time. Completely come to your start position each time. And then carefully bring your leg back down. You can march or walk through your feet a little bit. I see that the chair is in front of me. So just let go, all that work. Okay, we're gonna take it on the other side. So you can see what we're building on. We're building on the 2-legged crunch, taking it into a single leg crunch today. So left foot for me, my right leg is my standing leg. Now, see if you can see my hip. I could just kind of let my hip pop out and just completely rely on my hip joint to stabilize me. But we want to unpack that a little bit. We want to bring the hip into alignment. So we're taking these inner muscles, these inner thigh muscles, and we're pulling them to the midline. Let's do that again. See how the hip goes out? Maybe you have a lot of weight on the outside edge of your feet. Pull that into the midline. And then notice if the knee's locked out, bend it a little bit, but drive through the heel more. Hug all this flesh to the bone. Opposite knee forward. So many instructions. Now find your little crunches. It's cool though, isn't it? I think it is. So what's happening on the crunches? You're just waking up this musculature in your core, and you're just trying to isolate it and see if you can activate it. Can you turn it on? And can you crunch from the muscles contracting rather than using some other muscles to pull yourself forward? Okay, let's go into our rotations now. So think about this in terms of the rib cage or the thoracic area. You're going to rotate. You're not pulling from your shoulders or your elbows or your heads. If your arms are tired, you can put them here. You can put them here. Okay, so remember, we have options. I'm moving a little fast as I give you those arm variations. But what we want to happen here is rotation. So if my left knee is forward, I'm rotating my right rib cage closer to the inside of my left thigh as I experience the outside ribs rotating towards the back wall. Okay, that's about 5. Maybe wiggle a little bit before we get to our last set of 5. Now we're going to flex and rotate. So it's that shoulder that's kind of the point A that you're bringing to point B, and it's toward the knee. So there's a little bit of flexion, a little bit of rotation, and then finish in your start position. Always finish in the start position. 4. Connect your breath with your movement. And 5. And when you finish, always when you're doing exercises or yoga movements, slowly and mindfully transition from one movement into the next movement. All right, we're going to make our way down to the floor, down to hands and knees for a little bit of wrist mobility. It's been a few weeks since we've done that. If you prefer not to go onto the floor, I want you to just find your chair or your table, and you're going to assume a tabletop position like we're going to take on the floor. And I'm just going to start it. If you're on the floor, you're here, and we're just starting our circles. These are our wrist mobility drills. Now, if you're on the floor, you're going to be able to put a little bit more weight in the wrists, I think. I don't know. You can put some weight in the chair too, can't you? But the key here is to spread the fingers really wide, just like we do our toes. So we want to be able to bring our digits together and away. So spreading your finger digits really wide, and then whether you're on the chair or the ground, press into the thumb, the first finger, the middle finger, the fourth finger, almost like you're gripping a basketball. And then if you've been going circles in one direction this whole time, just circle in the other direction. Now your wrists are probably fatigued and sore. There's tiny, tiny, tiny little muscles in there, little stabilizing muscles that we're asking to do a repetitive motion over and over, or a prolonged motion over and over again. So wherever you are, either standing or coming to extension through the hips while on knees, just come off your wrists, find some circles. You can interlace the fingers here and start doing some waves. And allow yourself to experience that full extension and flexion of the wrists as you do the waves. From knees or from standing with the fingers interlaced, just press palms away. So if you're down on the ground, you can just press palms away. Bring up overhead if that works for you. If you're standing, you can just do this standing. And then release. Now we're going to go into seal and bulldog. So for seal, just take the fingers and turn them in toward one another. So the palms are away, and then find some circles in your seal. Take your circles in the other direction. And then bulldog, finish up whatever side you're on, is the opposite. So take the fingers away so the wrists face each other. Now, if you don't like these little circles that we're doing on the floor of the table, just move without doing circles, just move from seal to bulldog. Fingers in, wrists out. Fingers out, wrists in. Really grip the floor and feel it with the fingers. And then coming out of that, you can go fists for wrists. And just remember that fists for wrists is an option. This little sphincter of my thumb is going to roll forward and back. Opposite side, roll forward and back. So that's a little wrist mobility drill you can do. And forward and back. I don't know if you can see me there. I'm just going to go forward and forward. Again, if this one doesn't work for you, leave it. I'm offering you so many things to do today. Take the stuff that works for you, let go of the stuff that doesn't. If you're standing and working on your coffee table, it's time to come to your chair for shin box. If you're on the ground, you can assume your shin box shape. My friends in the chair, you're going to scoot your hip flesh pretty forward to give yourself room to lean back in the chair. We don't want to be flexed in the spine here. It's more of a heart extended flat back situation. And the legs are wide. And my friends in the chair, you're just going to start feathering, moving one leg at a time. Stay with me. If you're on the ground, same thing. Feet are wide, chest is lifted, and you're feathering. Now, at the end of class, a lot of people have talked about these shin box progressions and said, shin box progressions and said, you know, that progression is too much for me. Pause, switch to the other side. And that's probably true. So when I progress shin box, I'm offering to try to reach a variety of people. So if this is working for you in shin box and this is enough, stay right there with me. In the chair, it's a little bit harder to progress. So maybe if you're in the chair, go back to feathering the right side again. If you're on the ground, let's drop both knees down and you can let the toes sort of point a little bit and you'll see that both knees are bent and both hips are bent. Take your trunk over the femur of the forward leg. Try to sit nice and tall. And then take your trunk back to center. Lean back and pull the knees up. Let the knees fall in the other direction. The knee that's behind you, that flesh is going to come up a little bit. Sit up tall, rotate the trunk. That can feel like a super yummy stretch in the hip of the leg that's back. If it doesn't feel yummy, don't go that far. Turn the trunk back towards the area in between the legs. Hands go back and shin box. So now I want you to be off on your own. I want you to choose to switch when you want to switch. I'm not going to cue it. Choose to find some lengthening and activations and rotations on your own. Keep breathing with your work. Also, I know I have one person who thinks shin box is delicious. So after class, I'm going to show you a shin box variation that you can take with you since this 8-week session is over. So stick around if you'd like to hear about that. One more final move. We're going to do the shin box fold. Rotate the trunk over the front femur, lift and lengthen through the spine. Remember that flat back. Start to move the belly button toward the front femur. Your pelvis is rotating forward. And then you're going to wave down and wave up. We all have different distances we go. Some of you might go right here. And you know what? If you feel a bit of a stretch in your hip of the leg that's forward or the hip of the leg that's behind, great. If some of you can get lower, it takes you getting lower to feel it, then get lower. If some of you can get to elbows, great. So it doesn't matter how you look, it matters how you feel. And if you feel like you're getting a stretch or a lengthening or a sensation that's beneficial to you, stick with me. If you don't like it, find something that works for you or ask at the end of class. Let's peel up and shin box wave over to the other side. I've gone over a little bit in time. That's always a bit of a question for me if I keep going. So for those of you that are sticking with me, thank you. Let's prepare for the wave. Lift and lengthen through the spine. Start to bring the navel toward the front thigh. You're going to wave down, come up tall. You'll notice I'm on my fingertips here. This little wave motion before we go into the fold can really help us unlock our pelvis and get the tilt necessary for a nice fold and stretch. And notice when you arrive, I can put my forehead on the floor, but I don't need it. I can just stay right here on my elbows. Now I'm going to put my mind in the hip where I feel some stretch. And I'm going to maybe release there. Notice if I'm clenching or holding on. Continue to breathe. And then peel yourself up out of that. Bring the knees forward. If you're in a chair, put your back to the back of the chair. If you're on the ground, maybe you can lean up against a wall or a couch, or if you want to, you can lay down on the ground. Let your legs fully extend. And close your eyes if you're in a safe and comfortable place to close your eyes. Take your awareness inside and try to notice what feels different. Any sensations, maybe any tingly sensations or new awareness. Or maybe you started class with something that was cranky and maybe it's less cranky, a joint or a muscle. Maybe something's more cranky, but just observe it. Allow the breath to come in and out. Don't feel the need to change it or manipulate it at all. Taking this time to ground a little bit before class and observe how you feel after class. Can be nice bookends. And then finally, give yourself some gratitude and acknowledgement for showing up today, for showing up for these last 8 weeks, for taking a role in your wellness program and your health. It's been a pleasure and an honor sharing the last 8 weeks with you. I truly appreciate everybody who joined and all of the wonderful questions that we've had and the input and the feedback. I look forward to seeing you another 8 weeks coming up soon. See you then.